In today's lecture, we'll look into read aloud question type. As always, we will attempt a question together. We'll follow all the steps so that you understand what all needs to be done to achieve a high score. When you do that, that will help you learn the high scoring method. And then if you need more practice, please just have a look at the links in the video description for more questions. The idea of this PTE lecture is to walk you through everything that needs to be done to achieve a high score in Read Aloud in PTE Academic. A few things before we get started. Some basics about Read Aloud. As you know, in your screen you will see text up to 60 words. Then you will have 30 to 40 seconds to prepare, and then another 30 to 40 seconds to read out the response. The time that you have will vary depending upon how long or short the sentence is. Now, what are the method steps that we are going to follow? First of all, immediately, as soon as you see the text on your screen, take a note of where the punctuation marks are. Where is a comma? Where are the full stops? Make a note of that in your mind. The second step, you have to determine the pauses and intonation. So where are you going to pause? Where are you going to raise or lower your voice? Now, of course, you know your punctuation marks, the commas and the full stops, they are one place where you're going to pause and where you're going to raise or lower your voice. But other than that, also you need to determine some places, because you can't just go on reading a very long sentence. So you need to be able to divide that into appropriate parts, and that's the second step. The third step, determine the words that you're going to put some emphasis on. So now this may vary from person to person and how you read out the response, but try to have 2 or 3 a few words which you can put some emphasis on. Then if you notice a word that you're unfamiliar with, just try to practice how you would pronounce it in your mouth. If you can't, then it's perfectly alright to, not perfectly alright, but if you don't know it, then instead of just wasting your time and getting stuck on that word, it's better to make your best guess and say anything and then move on. After that, if you have some time left, then read the whole sentence once if you can, and then just get ready to give your response. Now let's start. This is the text that we are going to read aloud. So I'll give you a couple of seconds to have a look at this, and then we'll go forward and follow all the steps to see how we give a response. Okay, the first step is, let's immediately, as I said, we should immediately make a note of the punctuation marks. So the slash, it indicates where I've noted down the punctuation marks, the commas and full stops. So this is the first step, which tells you the punctuation marks, and certainly those are the places where you're going to pause a bit, and also you're going to raise or lower your voice. The next is any remaining pauses, any other places where you need to pause. So I've indicated that by a double slash. Now there are a number of ways in which you can chunk a sentence into smaller parts. So there's no hard and fast rule. This, for example, I've put a double slash after importance. So that means the chunk warlords have recognized the importance. I'm going to read that in one go. But someone else could have just said warlords have recognized, and after that put a chunk. Just keep in mind that your chunks, they shouldn't be too very small. So for example, you shouldn't stop after every 2 words, and also the size of your chunks should vary. For example, the first chunk maybe 4 words, then 5 words, then 6 words, and so on. If you always pause after 2 words or 3 words, it will make you sound robotic. Okay, you won't sound natural, you won't sound that you are comfortable in speaking in English, and we don't want that. So just mix it a bit, where you pause. After that, let's note down some words where we are going to put some stress, and I've indicated them in bold. Now, someone can say that, instead of shout, I'm going to put stress on facing armies, and that would have been fine too. Just make sure that you have few of them figured out. So there's no hard and fast rule on exactly the word that you need to put some emphasis on, but the words which carry more meaning, these can also be some adjectives which tell you more about something, or dates, etc. Those are the words which usually, yes, you put some emphasis on, but these can also be some other words. Now, let's note down if there are any unfamiliar words. So, just for example, let's say that we are not very familiar with this word in red. So what we are going to do, let's spend a couple of seconds just to try pronouncing it in our mouth silently. Psychological. So what you do, you break it into smaller parts and you try to pronounce it. If still you can't do that, then you will just make a guess. You can just say physiological, or physical terror, instead of stopping there, hesitating, wasting too much time. Then in that case you will just make a guess. Now, read the whole sentence once if possible. If there are still, let's say, 5 seconds or 10 seconds left in the 40 seconds that you have, just read the sentence once if possible. Now we are ready to give our response. Here we are, let's start. Alright, I'll tell you what my response would be like. Since prehistoric times, warlords have recognized the importance of inducing psychological terror in opponents. Facing armies would shout, hurl insults at each other, and beat weapons together or on shields prior to an engagement, all designed to intimidate the enemy. Other atrocities were certainly first employed at this time to induce an enemy to abandon their struggle. Now, what I've tried to do is that, on the bold words, I try to put emphasis. So I might have missed one or two, that's normal, but I try to put emphasis on those words. Wherever there was a comma or a full stop, I try to pause for a little bit. And wherever we had those double slashes, the pauses, I also try to pause there. And then I try to raise and lower my voice. So usually when you come to the end of a full stop, you will lower your voice, and when you are starting a sentence, you will raise your voice. So it's like a wave. Your voice should go up and down like a wave. If you are similarly reading a number of options separated by commas, then again, after one option you would lower your voice, and then when you are starting to read the other option, you will again raise your voice. For example, in this case, facing armies would shout, hurl insults at each other, and beat weapons together. So there you would have noticed the lowering and the raising of my voice. Those are the things that you need to capture, and if you are able to do that, then you will definitely achieve a good score in Read Aloud. Now let's evaluate ourselves on the same factors which PTE uses. So content, I didn't miss any word, and I didn't also add any word which was not there in the text. So both are important. When you are reading, you have to read exactly what's there on the screen. If you do, you will get full marks for content. Oral fluency was good because we had followed the method, so we knew where to pause, where to raise, lower our voice. We had noted down the punctuation marks, so the fluency came out good. Pronunciation, we didn't have much problem. We were not familiar with psychological, so we practiced and then we tried to say it as best as we can. Those are the things that you need to take care of when you are practicing, and look into the description of the video. You will find links to other practice videos. Now when you are practicing, judge yourself against all these parameters. Don't just randomly in a hurry go from one question to another. Make sure that you evaluate yourself properly. So before we wrap up, some points to remember: follow the steps. Don't approach the question randomly. Even if you think it's a small text, oh, this looks very simple, don't just go randomly. Follow the steps. You have practiced something and now follow the steps, because if you follow the steps, then you will get a good score. Don't hesitate and stop. If you are not sure, just say anything as best as you can and then move on to the next word. Don't panic. If you do, you will miss words, or you will add some words from your own which are not in the text, and then you will lose some marks. So that was all that we have for today. Remember to look into the description for more practice. I hope you're benefiting from these videos. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel so that you are notified when we upload the next video tomorrow. All the best in your PTE preparation.